What's up, family? Man, I bless each and every one of you that catch this video. My eyes are bloodshot because I'm tired. You know what I mean? I'm tired. Um, I average about 92 hours a week working. That's not even counting the 15 plus hours commuting a week, you know. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. We got to grow up. We have to grow up, you know what I mean? And man, sometimes when God blesses us, it doesn't seem like a blessing. Sometimes God can bless you and it seems as though God has turned his back on you. Sometimes God will bless you and it will seem as though he's forgotten all about you. Sometimes God will bless you and and you'll feel lonely and isolated and frustrated because it's as though you're being blessed, but it don't feel like you're being blessed. What am I talking about? Because here in America, we associate blessings with, man, we got money, we got relationships, man, we got a great job, we got a great house, we got a great car or vehicle, whatever, and we associate the material bullshit with the blessings of God. And if you don't have these material things, then people will automatically assume that you're not being blessed by God. We got to grow up. Sometimes God will bless you and it look as though he's beating the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Sometimes God will bless you and yet you'll look and feel as though you've been cursed. I know many of you are not going to agree with that. And it is what it is. I don't give a damn. Grow the fuck up. There's multiple stories in the Bible where God was blessing somebody and it didn't look like they were being blessed. God was blessing somebody, setting them up, and it didn't look as though God had his hand on their life. Let's go back to the story of Joseph. Here it is. Joseph's brothers hated and despised him so much, they dug a ditch, threw his ass in a ditch, sold him as a slave, and yet that was part of God's blessing for Joseph. That was a blessing for Joseph. And see, so many of us would, how can that be a blessing? How can losing your job be a blessing? How can this be a blessing? And you know what? And it is what it is. It's based on your perspective, but the great majority of us, our perspective is fucked up. The great majority of us, our perspective is twisted. The great majority of us, we're selfish and self-centered. The great majority of us, we're toxic as fuck. The great majority of us, we're not connected to God, source, the Most High. It don't matter how fucking religious you are. It's a whole lot of religious motherfuckers that talk all this bullshit. And why you talk like that? And you shouldn't use those type of words. And how are you gonna talk about God and cussing? Shut the fuck up with your bullshit. And grow the fuck up. Let's check this out. Joseph was being sold as a slave. And that was a blessing. It was a blessing. Check this out. Joseph, in the end, he was second in command in Egypt, right up under Pharaoh. Second in command. The second most powerful person on the planet at that time was Joseph. Joseph could have never been put in that position if he had never been sold as a slave. You got to catch that. Joseph would have never made it to Egypt. He would have never been where he was at. He would have never met the people he met. He would have never been in a place to be able to influence the king or Pharaoh had he never been sold by his brothers. You hear me talk about it all the time. Everything is always working out for us. It didn't seem like shit was working out for Joseph when his brother sold him. It didn't look like that shit was going anywhere. It looked like he was fucking cursed. It looked like he was fucking damned. And yet the whole time, God was setting Joseph up to meet the right people, to be at the right place at the right time, so that he could be elevated. God couldn't elevate Joseph right where he was at. He had to be sold as a slave. He had to be betrayed. He had to be thrown in prison in order for him to meet the right person. You got to catch that. There's another story in the Bible where God takes Noah and his family. He puts them on this ark that they have to build. Day in and day out, they're working on this ark. They're inside this ark 40 days, 40 nights, with all of these animals, with all of the sounds of these animals, with all of these animals going to the bathroom. Here it is, Noah and his family, they're stuck on this fucking boat. Nowhere to go for any peace of mind. The stench from all the fucking feces and the urine. The noise of the animals. And he's surrounded. It's hell on the outside of the ark. It's raining and pouring and flooding. So outside of the boat is chaotic. Inside of the boat is chaotic. Inside of the boat, he's safe. He's safe from the flood. He's safe from the rain. He's safe from the animals attacking him, but he's not being preserved from the sounds of the animal. He's not being preserved from their stench. And so that becomes chaotic. There's nowhere he could go with his wife and have a little privacy. There's nowhere he could go and just have some peace of mind. Here it is. He's on this boat. Talking about God preserving you. Not just God preserving you, God blessing you. Here it is, God is blessing Noah. But you have to understand, Noah knows everybody outside the boat is dying. Everybody outside the boat has died. Noah had family. Noah had siblings and cousins and aunties and uncles and grandparents. Noah had nieces and nephews. And he knew that they all died. Noah's wife had family member too. She had a mom and a dad and brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews and cousins and grandparents. And she knows all her family's gone too. Noah's sons, they have daughters. And they know all their siblings, their parents, their cousins, their aunties and uncles. They know that everybody's fucking gone. They didn't get a chance to go to the funeral. They didn't get a chance to say their goodbyes. They didn't get a chance to have closure. But God is blessing them. God is preserving them. But it doesn't seem like that. You know their heart had to be broke. Their hearts had to be heavy. All of the friends they had, all the people that they knew was dying on the outside of that boat. And they would never see them again. That's something heavy to think about. And not only do you have to deal with the loss of all your loved ones and your friends, you're in this boat. And the stench. You're in this boat. And the noise is nerve-wracking. How do you take your broken heart? How do you take your losses? How do you deal with the chaos of all the noise and funk inside of this boat? And sit there in a place of gratitude. How do you thank God for preserving you? How do you thank God for blessing you? When everybody else you know died. When everybody else you loved is gone. When you're the last member of your family. You're the last member of your family. And you know they're all gone. And yet, God was blessing them. It didn't look like God was blessing them. It didn't look like God had blessed them. You can imagine, man, that's hell. All of the losses, the noise, the smell. That's not an ideal situation. That's not a peaceful situation. By any means. That's not a place where you can just let your hair down and just relax and just, sigh. Not in that situation. Not up under those circumstances. And see, so many Christians, they talk right over that. They gloss right over that. Sometimes God blesses you. And it doesn't seem like you're being blessed. See, sometimes you get fired from a job and you don't realize that that's a blessing for you. Sometimes somebody you madly in love with leave you or reject you and abandon you and neglect you and that's a blessing in disguise. You really wanted that relationship to work, but it didn't work, and you got your heart broken. You became suicidal and depressed and frustrated and angry and bitter because they abandoned you, because they cheated on you, or whatever the case may be, not even understanding that God was blessing you. That was a blessing in disguise. That was a blessing in disguise. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you're in the midst of the hell, when you're in the midst of the pain. It's hard to see how this is a blessing. It's hard to see how everything is always working out for me when I turn around and it's just hell on the outside of the house, hell inside the house, noise and chaos everywhere I turn. How can this be a motherfucking blessing? When it don't feel like a blessing, when it don't seem like a blessing, when my heart is broken, how can that be a blessing? Sometimes we get in relationships or we hook up, get certain jobs, responsibilities, promotions. And we're so excited in the beginning. And we're thinking, oh, God has just blessed me with this, and man, what a great thing. And man, I'm so in love with this woman, and she's the cat's meow, and woo doo doo woo, and you're just so madly in love. You can't stop thinking about this person all day, all night. You're sitting there just daydreaming about this person. You're just so content, just looking into their eyes. You're just so content, just smiling and just like, you're just madly in love. But you don't see what's about to happen. You don't see the hell you're about to go through. You don't see the pain they're about to cause you. You don't see how they're about to crush your spirit. You don't see how they're going to push you to a place of homicide. You don't see how they're going to push you to a place of suicide. Because you're so in love. This is such a great blessing. Man, God's given me my soulmate, my twin flame, and everything that I've ever dreamed and hoped for in a man, everything I dreamed and hoped for in a woman, right here, right now. And that same person, in a matter of time, is gonna have you pulling out your motherfucking hair. That same person that you're bragging on and you're just talking about, and you can't say anything. You don't see no faults, no character defects, or nothing. They're perfect in your eyes. Right here, right now. You don't see how narcissistic they are. You don't see how controlling they are. You don't see how destructive they are. You don't see how careless they are. You don't see how abusive they are. How they're gonna shatter your self-esteem. This person you're so in love with. This person you think is so perfect. This person you think is a gift from God is gonna fuck your life up. And right now you think they're a blessing. You think this job is such a blessing. 6 months in, you realize you're a slave to this position. 6 months in, you realize how stressed out and how frustrated you are, how underpaid you are. And this job doesn't seem like a blessing anymore. See, we got to grow up emotionally. We have to grow up spiritually. Everything you get isn't a blessing. And just because you don't get what you want that could be the blessing. Catch that? Did you catch that? But we're so spoiled and so entitled and ungrateful. So disconnected from reality, so disconnected from God, source, universe, the Most High. We can't see how He's blessing us by keeping this away from us. We can't see how He's blessing us by keeping us out of that relationship. I remember one day I was talking to my younger sisters, and they were talking about my father. We had the same father. They were talking about our father. And they were talking about how he was. And I had to remind them that they were blessed. And they couldn't understand what I was saying at first. And I had to remind them, you still have your mama. We got the same daddy, but for whatever reason, he chose to kill my mama. He dogged your mama out. He crushed her. He dogged her out. I get that. But you still have your mama. You were allowed to grow up with your mama. You were allowed to experience and see and hear your mama. You were allowed to hug and hold and talk to your mama. You're blessed. You're blessed. Yes, our dad is who he was. But you're blessed. You're blessed that you didn't grow up like I did. You're blessed that you didn't grow up without your dad and without your mom. You're blessed that you grew up in an environment that showed you love, that showed you that you mattered, that valued your opinion, valued your thoughts. You're blessed. And sometimes we have to hear other people's testimony. Sometimes we have to hear other people's story to realize how blessed we really are. Sometimes it takes us having to hear what other people have gone through for us to humble ourselves, for us to have a slap of reality and stop complaining about what we ain't got and learn to be grateful for what we have. Sometimes God's blessings don't come across as blessings. But you have to be connected to God, source, universe, the Most High, to be able to understand how this is going to be a blessing. To be able to understand, man, everything, every motherfucking thing is always working out for me. I may not see it. I may not understand it. I may not get it right now. But I have to trust and believe that everything is working out for me until I come into that understanding, that wisdom, that, man, this hellish situation I went through was for my benefit. This hellish situation that I went through was a blessing. Because Joseph went through the hell that he went through. He was elevated and was able to preserve his family. Joseph, who was sold as a slave by his own family, lied upon by a woman, thrown in prison falsely, you know what I mean? that same God who went through all of that bullshit was elevated and put in a position to keep a country alive. Not just Egypt alive, but the surrounding area. Because of the hell that he went through. Noah, because of the hell that he went through, was able to preserve his family, his sons, his lineage. Because of the hell he went through. Because of the chaos he had to survive. Sometimes God's blessings hurt. Sometimes God's blessings are going to cause you pain. Sometimes God's blessings are going to make you cry. Sometimes his blessings are going to make you question him and ask, what the fuck is going on? Hope and pray that I said something to encourage you, to inspire you, to even challenge your way of thinking. We have to grow up. We have to grow up. I love you guys. Happy healing. Peace.